Welcome, campers. We are here with a very special guest sitting with us around the campfire, Matt, who is the writer-director of Sandman. How you doing today, Matt?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
So happy to have you here.
Please tell us about Mr. Sandman.
Well, Mr. Sandman is basically a film that is based on childhood fears of the dark and what we all experience when we go through that. And it's about that long, terrifying journey. If you've ever fallen asleep outside your bedroom and everybody else in the house has gone to bed, you have that long, terrifying journey of getting to your bedroom, which becomes an ordeal and adventure in itself. And you're running from room to room, switching lights on and off, sprinting. You're hearing noises, you're seeing shadows, and you know that there's nothing there, but you can't help for your imagination to take over. And the whole point of it is to hit on those primal chords, primal fear of the dark, which actually most people share to this day. And I figured the appeal of Sandman would be either you're a child watching it at the moment, or everybody was a child once.
Mhm.
And I figure that no matter what gender, race, culture you come from, everybody was a child once and everybody experienced the fear of the dark because it's a primal fear. It's a human fear and it rises above any outside influences. So I knew not if nothing else, the inspiration behind Sandman was it would be relatable. So that was really the drive for Mr. Sandman.
So I think we'll just start off with what everyone always wants to know. What is your favorite horror movie?
Oh, wow. I always have a tough one with this one because there's my favorite movie, which some people are teetering on, whether it's an actual horror or not. And then there's my favorite horror. So Jaws is my all-time favorite movie in any category. Which again, some people might argue against. They kind of call it the first summer blockbuster, so they kind of push it away from the horror category. I mean, it's which I could see their argument to a point. It is during the day. It is on a bright sunny beach as opposed to a dark haunted house or what have you. But I would argue the way it's set up, it's very, very much a horror and very, very much inspired by another daytime horror, which would be The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. I think it's set up in a very similar way and shot in a Hitchcockian way. So I would classify it as horror. But for those who are sticklers and like me to just say horror, it's going to have to be the original Exorcist.
Classic. Scary, creepy. I do agree with you on Jaws, though. It's I know Michelle
Right.
and I both love Jaws. It's she's laughing already because like we both love sharks and we both love Jaws. But like to me, it's a horror creature feature.
Mhm.
Agreed. Agreed. With it, I like what I love about it is what Spielberg did is try to stray away from the standard creature feature and make it as psychological as possible,
Hmm.
Mhm.
which works by, even though it was somewhat caused by the mechanical problems, by not showing the shark, it made it much more psychological instead of a
Yeah.
monster movie.
Yeah. What does Bob Ross call that? A happy accident?
Yes.
So when did you start watching horror?
Oh, wow. Well, again, if we're counting Jaws, then it was on a re-release for me, and I'm gonna say right around 5 years old, and my mom took me, and for whatever reason, and we were visiting Florida at the time near a beach at my grandmother's house, so it was probably not a good idea, but as a kid, it just didn't affect me. It just I loved it, and I still went in the water the next day and didn't think twice about it. However, there was a little more of a specific horror incident where my parents were out and my older brother and older cousin thought it would be hilarious for me to watch the 1981 broadcast of the original Halloween.
Oh.
So yeah, and that was the first film that honestly scared me, and I had nightmares for many years afterwards, featuring Michael Myers, and it was just it created somewhat of a monster because it created a love hate relationship with horror as I was
Mhm.
younger, and then as I got older, I got to appreciate them more on a filmmaking aspect and film analyzing aspect because I love to sit and analyze film. So it what Carpenter did there was brilliant on so many levels, and I did let him know personally. I thanked him for all the years of nightmares after that. So, and he was appreciative. So,
Oh, it's awesome. So, talking about analyzing film, what one moment of analysis would you consider a movie a success or not so much a success?
oh, that's funny. I was just discussing this recently with a friend. Um, I can't say there's one element because if there my love for film comes from the fact that in my personal opinion, and I'm sure this is debatable amongst people, it is the highest art form out there. And the reason I say that is because you have to combine cinematography, acting, directing, writing, music. Not only do they all have to be good, but they have to marry well together to make a good film.
Mhm.
So I think that's extremely difficult to do. And that's why, honestly, let's say there's, I don't know, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 films released a year, somewhere in that, at the studio level. How many of them would you say are good? It's hard to do. It's a very hard art to achieve. So picking one thing would be difficult, but I'll tell you, if there's one thing that always stands out to me is that a great movie can be totally ruined by a bad ending because it's the feeling you leave with,
Mhm.
and it can either put a bad taste in your mouth or leave you feeling like, wow, I wasn't like fully invested, but that end like punched me in the face and left me with like that feeling. And so yeah, I would say the ending is ridiculously crucial because it's
Hmm.
what you leave your audience with as they go by.
Well, talking about movies with good endings, let's talk about Mr. Sandman. Was that your first movie?
It was my first cinematic style.
Okay.
Being in the amateur realm and the independent realm that I am, I have done found footage style before that, just to get my feet wet. And I'll tell you though, it can be just as challenging making a found footage scary as any other style of film. So I'm not knocking found footage,
Mhm.
but I will say it is a great way for people to get their feet wet if they're looking to get into filmmaking because anybody can do it. Not anybody can do it well, but anybody can do found footage. But even though I loved and enjoyed doing found footage, my heart has always been cinematic style. So this is my first cinematic style entry.
Did you have a childhood toy? And if so, what was its name?
I did, and I still have it, and it was given to my daughter, the one who plays Zoe in the film. Um, so she has it now in her room, and it was a stuffed koala, and it was named after a cartoon I loved as a kid called Quickie Koala. So its name is Quickie Koala.
Cute.
Were
Just
there
clutch
any?
it running up the stairs away from the darkness.
Yes.
Not yeah, but yeah, it's not super inventive, but it was inspired. The name was inspired by a cartoon I liked as a kid. So
For Mr. Sandman, was there any unexpected difficulties you ran into while shooting throughout the house?
Uh, well, yeah, and you kind of touched on it there with the house because it is my house, and there is a full family in this house. There's
Mhm.
the wife, there's the two kids, there's two dogs, and because we could only film at night And because obviously my daughter's a full-time student as well as a competitive swimmer, our time limits on filming were extremely restrictive, and having to ask a whole house to be quiet for a
Yes.
few hours at a time, and especially since you really can't tell dogs to be quiet, they don't listen very well, was extremely difficult. So the scheduling challenges um, were by far my biggest challenge, just because we could only get like a few shots at a time, and that's probably the single that's the biggest reason by far that the movie took 3 years to complete from start to finish.
So did your film meet your expectations then through all those restrictions?
Yeah, it's actually kind of amazing because I do have one regret with the film, and that's speaking of film endings. We had another ending in mind, and I was afraid that we wouldn't have pulled it off convincingly enough. And with scheduling and the extra cast members we would need to pull this off, I was afraid it wasn't going to work. So in all honesty, I somewhat chickened out of it, and I regret that. I do, because I think it would have made for an even better ending, instead of the somewhat open-ended one that I left viewers with on this. But as far as expectations, I'm it's like bittersweet. I'm so happy that technology exists now for independent filmmakers, that they can make movies on a shoestring budget
Hmm.
that look and feel almost professional. And
Mhm.
the tools that we have now. I mean, we have like Final Cut Pro, which is basically studio grade editing software on your laptop. Um, the iPhones themselves, with the proper apps, can
Yep.
shoot very cinematic style and make things look really good. And you can buy gimbals for them to replace steady cams and what
Hmm.
have you. It's absolutely amazing what you can achieve now as an independent filmmaker. And again, it doesn't take a big budget to do it, and it's really so it's great. But at the same time, I'm like, where were you when I was in high school and I was running around with a bulky VHS thing on my shoulder? Like, where were you back then when I could have used you? So it's a little bittersweet, but in in the sense, if it met my expectations, it was very nice to see the way I pictured it in my head come out on screen the same way. And that is more than anything is what made me happy, that I was able to actually get, okay, I picture the shot this way. I was able to make the shot look that way. And that
Hmm.
made me very happy. So in that sense, it did meet my expectations. And frankly, the response has been very complimentary. And I'm happy that I seem to be hitting those the memories for people of those childhood fears. So that's making me very happy, because that was the goal of the film.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my bedroom was an attic. The previous owners growing when had converted the attic into a bedroom, and that's where I slept. So I remember like hitting the lights and just bolting up the stairs. And this movie exactly brought me back to those moments. So speaking of like we have the technology, we're making movies with very little and having great impact. Is there a particular scene that you are just so proud of? Chef's kiss.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an easy one. Grandma's monologue. That
Nice.
that 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 when I got that, and that was shot, I believe it was one of the first nights of shooting. Um, and I'm not related to her, by the way. She was an actress that I hired, so kudos to Sherry. She knocked it out of the park. But when I got that shot, and originally it wasn't cutting back and forth between her and Zoe, and getting the reaction shots and stuff. It was just one long, steady dolly in to her face for the monologue, and to see her nail it and the pace of the camera go at the exact right pace I wanted it to, I was like, this is exactly what I visioned in my head. This is exactly what I wanted out of this. She's got the right cadence. She's got the right tone. I'm like, yes, this is it. If nothing else, I got this scene, and I have a feeling that I just, it was kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? It was kind of like that feeling where it's like you're starting off on the right foot. So you just feel like the movie's going to be effective. And it
Hmm.
was really because of that scene.
It just sets that tone for everything else.
Yeah.
And the morale, I'm sure, felt it too.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were we were high fiving all around.
Love those moments.
Yeah, we absolutely loved the grandma, and while we were doing our review of it, I know I said I was like, grandma needs to be put in a home because she is scaring everybody.
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of funny about Grandma because while that was shot at the beginning, and it wasn't until like a couple more years till the final film came out, but in the meantime, I was in the house and I get a call from my producer, and he's like, "Dude, turn on the news immediately." I'm like, "Okay." So I turn it on, and there's Grandma on a national commercial. She
Oh,
had become, and you can YouTube this, Medicare Martha. So we're like,
Yay.
hey, we
oh,
got Medicare Martha as the grandma in our movie. So we're like, hey, like, can we parlay this? Can we make this like a good promotional tool that Medicare Martha was in our movie? I'm like, well, we're gonna try. That's
yeah,
for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So, Mr. Sandman is a short film, but were there any differences between the final draft to the final product?
Yeah, when I wrote it, I did have an original ending written in, not the one I discussed, but an original ending written in. And before we started filming, when my producer read, and we actually did film that ending too, and it just didn't come out right. It it didn't have the effect I wanted it to. And my producer looked at me. He's like, "Is this ending? I understand what you did here, but is this ending doing it for you?" And I said, in all honesty, and I could be my own biggest self critic, so I have no problem admitting it. Like, I'm like, no, in all honesty, no, it's flat. It's too flat for me. I need something more out of this. So then he came up with the grand idea, which I really wanted to do, but again, I'll take the heat on that one, chickened out. And then I was like, all right, let's settle for something in the middle that I know we can do effectively. And what's funny is that when I was showing the film to one of my friends, a rough cut, um, I was I was just about to show it to him, and he's like, "Well, at least you didn't do one of those stupid the end is the beginning and the beginning of the end is thing." Before I showed it to him, I'm like, I'm like, now I got to show it to you. I'm like, you just told me. I'm like, no, I can't believe you said that. And he was like, oh, you did that? I'm like, yes, I did that. I'm like, crap. So he's like, it's okay. You did it. You did it okay. It wasn't so egregious. I'm like, okay. So yeah, we did change the original ending from the original screenplay because it was just flat. And I don't mind saying it now because I'll never use it. It was basically when she goes to bed, she wakes up the next morning, and her parents are still asleep, and she sees the day break through the curtains, so she thinks everything's okay. But then she looks over into the doorway, and Mr. Sandman, like a faint silhouette of him, is there, and he just starts fading away, and she starts crying, knowing that the nightmare is going to start all over again the next night. So it
Hmm.
was kind of like that setup. But the way it was shot and the way it was executed, I was just not happy with it. So I'm like, you know what? No, we're not settling for anything in this film. If it's not done right, we're not putting it in. So that's why the ending was changed.
And your daughter plays the little girl, is that correct?
Yeah,
Is
Haley plays.
Does she have aspirations for acting, or was she just doing this as a favor for you?
No, she does. She wants to act. She's been doing school plays and acting classes and stuff like that. So she definitely wants to. She has that dramatic bone in her,
Mhm.
that she loves to just perform. And some people like have asked me, they're like, well, was it scary for her? I'm like, no, it's in her house. Her dad's right there. We're making jokes in between takes. I'm like, there is nothing scary about filming a horror movie. Filming a horror movie is the most goof around set you can imagine. I said,
It is.
We
I said,
often,
no.
yeah.
So she was not scared in the slightest. But I, I what was good about using my own daughter was the fact that I knew I could push her to her limits without someone else's parents like standing over my shoulder saying like, "Hey, you're pushing my daughter too hard."
Mhm.
And not only that, I knew, having seen her perform, that I could get exactly what I needed out of her to carry, and she really did. I mean, it's almost like a solo picture for her, and it's almost like a silent film. So the whole film is almost only her expressions, and I knew
Mhm.
I could get that out of her. So I was confident we could pull that off, and I only had to pay her in McFlurries. So win
There you go.
win
Well, she
win.
did a great job.
Thank you, thank you. She has gotten a lot of compliments, and she did win an award at a film festival. So I'm very
Oh, good
proud
That's
of
for
her.
awesome.
her. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
All right. So, were there any specific scenes that you had to sacrifice for the short film that you would like to see? Maybe I know you had said in your interviews about talking about a full length.
Yeah, it's no, I don't think we had to cut anything out because it was written as a short film. It was a 15-page screenplay, so I don't think there was anything we had to sacrifice other than that great idea for the ending. Oh, you know what? I apologize. There was something that I did ditch because again, it wasn't working. There were scenes that we did film where she was actually having a dialogue with the purple bunny, and she was voicing the purple bunny talking back to her a lot like Danny in The Shining when he's talking to his finger when he's talking to
Hmm.
Tony. Exactly. And it was done very much in that style. And it sometimes when you write things, it sounds good on paper, but when you actually see it executed, you're like, this is not working.
Yeah.
So it was sacrificed not because of time constraints or anything like that, but it was more sacrifice just because it wasn't effective. And again, I had compromised on previous films of mine, previous found footage, to results that upset me, and I swore with this film I was not going to do that. I was not going to compromise anything, and if it wasn't effective, it wasn't going in. So those scenes were cut, and trust me, for the better.
Sometimes those cuts are hard to make too. It just guts you a little.
Mhm.
I know Michelle can
Yeah,
probably tell you about that a lot more than I could.
you come up with these great, what you think are great ideas, and you want to, you're on a high when you're writing, and you're just like, yes, I'm rolling, everything's coming out great. And then, but sometimes practically when you shoot it, you're just like, oh, that's kind of crappy now that I actually hear the dialogue. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not putting that in. So you got to put your ego in check and realize that yes, you are wrong sometimes.
So, what lessons from this and your previous films would you take into your next project?
Well, this being that this was my first cinematic style, it's almost a little more of a technical lesson that really stands out. I'm sure there's plenty of things. Listen, there is no perfect film, and even my favorite film, Jaws, is flawed to no
Mhm.
end on a technical level. One shot it's like fog, the next shot it's clear as day. You could see the sun behind Chrissy in the opening scene, and then it's supposed to be pitch black at night at the same time. So I know no film is perfect, and I know that it has its flaws. But for me, the production would go a little smoother because I've learned a lot about cinematography, and not having to not every film would require the amount of extreme close-ups I did with Mr. Sandman, which made the production infinitely harder. Because with found footage, you can actually let the camera roll for 5 minutes and
Mhm.
possibly get 5 minutes of usable material.
Mhm.
Hmm.
With cinematic, if you watch any film, in 60 seconds, there's roughly a dozen cuts. So, I tried to do that in a very, I wanted this to be a very, I wanted you to feel everything Zoe, the character Zoe, was feeling. So I had to achieve that through a lot of close ups and a lot of like just up close shots. And it just like, it did create a logistical nightmare because it was like for a 35-minute film, it ended up being about 250 shots. And that's tough to do when you're only getting like 5 shots a night due to
Oh yeah.
scheduling. So
Oh yeah.
I would definitely work on that a little better to make it a little more um, expansive and not have to rely on those close ups as much. But
Mhm.
I feel that the film did call for it. So,
Did you have a way to keep yourself organized over such a, like having such tiny amounts of time to film in?
yeah, just I had shot lists that we tried to stick to each night, and but then the challenge is that she would get tired and she would start to like nod off, and we knew once we started losing her that we
Hmm.
weren't going to get a good shot out of her because she
Mhm.
was just wiped for the day. So we had to know when to call it. Um, so there was like that, but a shot list really helped.
Yeah.
So I definitely had that, and that's another thing. Even with technology, just having an iPad nearby, there's like an app to for a digital slate, so you could put it in front of each camera shot. And I'm like,
Nice.
it makes it, I'll tell you, technology has made things so easy and accessible. But yeah, so just a shot list, I think, is crucial to help you keep on schedule.
I didn't know they had an app for a clapboard, and I will be using that from now on because I always forget mine
Does it
and I have
does
to
it make the
like,
sound?
I think it's called DigiSlate, if I
okay,
remember correctly. I haven't
okay.
looked at it in a while, and you could type in the scene, the shot number, the
Hmm,
everything. So everything is right there in front of you to put in front of your camera just before you start rolling.
that is good to
That's so
Yep.
know.
handy.
I really needed that on several filmings.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Especially the last one.
Uh-huh. Do you have any future or upcoming projects?
I'll tell you, and it's no one's fault, but man, this question like stabs me right in the gut because I'm like, it is so hard to. I mean, again, this is not my primary job. I
Mhm.
have a full-time job, between time, and I'm pretty much self-funded. I know people do Indiegogo campaigns and Kickstarters and stuff, but I haven't seen enough success out of those without I guess like trying to attach names to them,
Mhm.
that I just so a lot of the films, my ideas don't always match my budget. So I have grandiose ideas that I would love to get accomplished, but I have to find an idea that matches my budget and time.
Mhm.
Which is unfortunately these days with two high school girls in the house who are both athletes and now both got their first summer jobs each. I am playing Mr. Taxi and I'm
Uh-huh.
busier on my days off than I am on my days at work. And so time and money has been a resource that's really tough for me to come by. But the drive is there, the passion's there. So yes, at some point I will pick up the camera again, but I do have to find something. I do believe that you should find a story you're passionate about since you are
Mhm.
an indie filmmaker.
Mhm.
Find the story you're passionate about because if you're not passionate about it, I don't think you're going to put your whole heart into it, and I don't think you're going to get the results that you should get. But this story was very much a personal story for me because I did a lot of those things as a kid, as I would suspect most of us did, and I think that's why the film's relatable. Um, and I wanted to put that on film. I wanted to put those childhood fears. I wanted to show that yes, almost all kids pull their feet under the covers or see shadows, that a
Mhm.
pile of clothes can be a demon, or like a sound can sound like someone's calling your name in the middle of the night. So I wanted to do that, and I was really passionate about that. So, but if I could find something, a story I'm passionate about that matches my budget and time, I absolutely will jump behind the camera again. And I very much would love to.
You and I are in the same boat. I have a full-time job, so making movies is just a hobby, and I do it in my spare time. I self-fund. I never use Indiegogo or Kickstarter or anything. So you're right with the project has to match the budget, and sometimes those two don't line up, and so it takes years for something new to happen.
Correct. Correct. But I'll tell you one thing. Speaking of lessons, I'll never film in my house again. I need to get outside on location. I need it to be somebody else's problem, not my scheduling.
I actually filmed
Yeah.
a found footage in my house as well, so I understand. And I had to like put my animals in it because they kept getting in the shot, and I was like, "Well, you're just a part of the story now."
Whatever works. Whatever works.
Are there plans for a sequel?
I it's so funny. I'm such a hypocrite because at the studio level, I love sequels.
Mhm.
I love seeing my characters revisited, the favorite characters. I'm a huge fan of Jaws 2. I don't care what anybody says. It's a phenomenal sequel. All right, 3 and 4 aren't so good, but I love 2. I absolutely love 2. Exorcist 3 to me is the most underrated horror film I've ever seen. So I do love sequels, but at the same time, as a filmmaker, I totally understand why people are hesitant to go down that road, because if you've said everything you have to say, I think it's hard to be like, okay, am I now just trying to force story points in just to make a sequel? So I'm very hesitant to go down that road. However, one thing I didn't get to explore in this film, which I think would be a very interesting topic, maybe on its own, is sleepwalking, because I used to do that as a kid too.
Mhm.
And if I could evolve that into a Sandman Part Two and make it effective, then yeah, I would think about touching on that again.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And last question, just a fun question. If you could write yourself into any horror movie as either the victim or the villain, which horror
Wow.
movie would it be?
Wow. See, I'll tell you, I've had a lot of questions similar to that, but not in that put in that way. So that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Oh God, like the selfish side of me wants to say a Jaws sequel, but no, I think that train has already has already crashed, and should not be touched for a while. Um, ooh, I'll tell you, I do love even the bad ones. I enjoy. I love the Halloween franchise. So if I could just run around in the mask for a while, so that I personally could maybe get over that childhood fear and not have him to this day visit my nightmares from time to time. That would be fun. I love the music. I love the feel of fall. I love the feel of Halloween. Um, so I yeah, I would say at this point I would probably just do a reboot.
Mhm.
Um, but because I think every sequel avenue has been done to death, and I would just
Mhm.
start from scratch. But I would love to run around in the mask for a while and just have fun and just play that stalker. Because I don't think I probably am not a very good actor, so I'd be better in a silent role. I have a question, if nobody minds. Um, I would like to ask you both what your favorite scenes were and why. So you one scene apiece and tell me why it was your favorite scene.
I liked when when the little girl is in her bed and the nails come over the covers. I thought that was shot so, so well. And for cinematography wise, I feel like it was shot at a kid's eye level. So that made us feel like we were that little girl.
So you got that, what that's what I was going for with the cinematography. So thank you. I'm glad you picked up on that.
No
That's awesome.
problem.
I'm gonna go with a more of like a visceral reaction that I had is that I'm um a very long time horror watcher. It's very hard to scare me or to get a jump scare out of me. When the
Yeah.
black shadow suddenly got up, I jumped. I was so mad at myself. I was like, why? But that got me. And I was like, oh, I'm so into this. I mean, I was super into it. The tension is so great when she's trying to get up the stairs. And then just that shadow jump scare got me.
Hmm.
I was
Yeah.
like, good job, but dang it.
Yeah. I remember
Oh,
us
so
talking
glad.
about it in our review. I hated the parents so much. I was like, this little girl is terrified, and they're just like, whatever. I was so mad at the parents.
I'll tell you, it's true though. Parents just want to sleep.
They
They're
do.
working people. They just want to sleep. They know
Yep.
it's their. They know it's just the kid's imagination, and just go to bed. There ain't nothing in the damn room. So, common theme amongst parents, including my own when I was younger. So, yeah,
Yep. Same.
yeah. No, that's very cool. Actually, most people say, without a spoiler, most people say the mom scene.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely
yeah.
cannot sneeze at that scene. It was she was terrifying.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
thank you for the feedback.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us and for talking about Mr. Sandman. Sam and I loved it. So I appreciate you taking the time and diving a little deeper into it with us.
No, thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.